Hey, welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Ham Radio Dude. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you haven't been here before, I make amateur radio related videos, anything from technical reviews and overviews of radios, and now I'm actually getting into vlog style videos. So actually, if you want to see some vlog style videos, I got some pretty good surprises coming up here. But today we're here to talk about an overview of a product, and that's going to be the model F-1005, and it's a power splitter, as it's called on Amazon's website, from Chunzehui, I believe, Chunzehui. And I probably got that name wrong. My apologies. I know you'll correct me in the comments below. But let's go ahead and just do a quick overview today of this product. So to get started, this is a 40 amp power distribution unit or splitter. And what this does is, it's really, I say it's 9 ports, but it's really 8. So you have your DC in right here. Now this is where you're going to plug in something like a battery or maybe a power supply. But then you have all these different outputs. You have 8 different outputs, and they're all fused, right? So if you exceed the fuse amount, it'll pop the fuse and prevent any kind of damage to the product that you're plugging in. What I'm going to tell you is we have 8 outputs, and this is a 40 amp power distribution unit. So you could plug in something like maybe your radio, an HF radio, for example, and then maybe you have a Smoking Ape juice box. You could plug that in and maybe charge your cell phone or some other USB device. Maybe you charge your HT device this way. But as the name of the unit suggests, you're basically taking this device with one power source and you're splitting it to be used on multiple devices that need power. Jumping over to Amazon.com, I wanted to show you that this device cost $59 new, and you can get it on the same day, which is kind of cool. But regardless, it's a $59 power distribution splitter. And what we have here, if we go over to the other page, is it shows a list of the things that are included. And that's going to include not just the power distribution panel, but it's also going to include things like the power pole connectors, as well as what are 45 amp. You know, there's a little bit different ones in there. There's a couple of different ones in here. But on here, these all appear to be 45 amp connectors that I got with this device. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys that. And then finally, you have these little covers here to go over your power pole adapters. So, you know what, for $59 so far, it seems like a pretty decent little deal, especially comparing it, with other devices. I do really quick want to compare it to another device, and that is going to be the Rig Runner 4008. Now, we talked about this in a prior episode, so I don't need to go into much detail. You do have your different inputs and outputs here, as well as your LEDs, which specify under voltage, normal, and over voltage. But I want to compare it in the size to the model F1005 that I picked up. Now, there's a pretty significant difference in size, and the reason I think that's so important is if people are traveling, they might want to have a smaller, splitter. And if that's the case here, in pretty much every aspect, even height, width, and length, the model F1005 is a lot smaller, a lot more compact, which might mean it fits in a backpack a lot easier. I did want to jump back onto the Amazon.com review real quick, and I wanted to show you one thing that I noticed on the reviews that is very important. The most important thing to some people, of course, is that this device doesn't use official Anderson power pole adapters. Now, you're probably thinking in your mind, what big deal is that? But I got to tell you, there are a huge variety of different adapters out there for power poles. The ones that aren't Andersons, they range from pretty good to pretty bad. So keep it in mind that they don't use the genuine power pole connectors. And I'm actually reading here, it says, but instead they use the ones from a Chinese manufacturer called AITM. At least this is on the 2 units this individual received. And we're going to check that here in just a second on ours. Having said that, they look identical and many reviews report no issues with them. And they do mate perfectly with their US counterparts. I have already tested that with the Bioenno battery. In fact, let's go ahead and get this unit on the workbench now. On the workbench today, I have 4K camera quality, and I'm trying to give you the most pleasurable viewing experience. And with that, I'm trying to also give you as many details of this device as I can. As you can see, this is aluminum casing. Actually looks pretty good, and it seems pretty durable. We're going to go ahead and open this up in just a few moments, but I did want to also just show you each power pole connector as they are. And there is an A on the top of each of them, but we're going to take a look at the actual connectors as well in just a moment. And then you have your fuses here. Now, as far as everything goes today, I'm going to be hooking this up to a Bioenno 12 volt 9 amp hour battery. Simply all I got to do here is I'm going to plug in red to red and black to black on the DC in. And when I do so, I get a green light. With that green light, I do want to mention that these do fit pretty good. You know, I'm sitting here trying to pull them out, and they will come out, but with just a little force, which is nice. And let's take a look at those power pull adapters just to see, you know, are these actual legit power pull adapters, or is the review correct? And I believe the review is probably correct, but let's just take a look here. If I take a look at these power pull adapters on the top here, you're going to see these two A's. But if I flip this over here, and this might be a little hard to see, yes, you're going to see that these are not official power pull adapters, AITM. I will say the quality of these adapters are pretty good. Now I am going to go ahead and I'm just going to place that to the side, and let's go ahead and run through each and every one of these outputs. But I do want to real quick, I need to make a cable, and I'm going to use these power pole connectors to make sure that they work with my Anderson crimper and make sure that they work okay. So I'll be right back and I'll let you know how it went. Actually, I probably should have said West Mountain Radio crimpers. I really like these crimpers, but while I'm making this cable, I think it would be an ideal time to mention that I am looking for sponsors. See, I run this channel on my own dime, and it's starting to get a little bit expensive, but I enjoy what I'm doing. So if there are any companies that want to send me gear for review, or, you know, maybe some accessories and tools for making my life a little bit easier while I do this, I would appreciate it. Hit me up in the comments or send me an email. I got the power pole adapter installed, and the crimp went pretty well. I did have slight issue actually getting them to seat into place on the little metal tab that's on the plastic part of the adapter itself, but I just use a small screwdriver to pop it up and clip it in. Everything seems good here. I unfortunately am not going to be able to test the full 40 amps on here to make sure that this thing is able to do 40 full amps. Maybe at a later date we can, but again, it comes down to test equipment, and I just don't have the right stuff at the moment. Here we go. I'm going to plug this in here though, and I'm just going to go through each and every one of these to test that it's working. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to plug it into a G90 with an external fan that's hooked up to it. And so now that I have the G90 plugged in, first of all, we could see that LED light here, but there's no LED light here. If I go to power on the radio, let's see what occurs. And we get nothing, but the radio actually powers on. So this LED doesn't necessarily work as a, oh, you got something plugged in, but I think it more works as like, oh, maybe there's a short there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to unplug this, and we're just going to kind of go down the line here. I'm going to give a little bit of a comment too as to these power pole adapters when I plug them in. Even though I'm having a difficult time on screen, it's just the position that I'm trying to plug them in, which is making this difficult. But they actually do seat in okay. It doesn't seem a problem, and they don't seem loose. If you could see this, there is a little play, but that's not loose. I would say that is normal. And the reason I'm doing this is just to make sure that every port is working. And next we're going to open this up, and we're actually going to just kind of make sure that there's no cold solder joints, as we have seen that be the case in other videos with other power distribution panels or splitters. That worked out well. We're good there. And now finally, I am going to plug it into this. I'm sorry, I think I called it a 2 amp earlier. This is a 3 amp, but it's not going to work, or it shouldn't work. And the reason for it is I have shorted this 3 amp fuse. And the short caused the fuse to actually pop, and you could tell right here by the red light that the fuse is actually blown. I'm going to go get a new fuse, and I'll be right back. I actually only have another 5 amp fuse, and that's what I'm going to plug in now. Again, being very careful to plug it back in. What we're going to see is it plugs in okay. I can now plug in this device, and I can turn this on, and we should get power with no red light. So that's pretty cool. Sorry about that there. So that is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and take this apart and just take a look at the board to see if there's any cold solder joints, and then we're going to wrap things up. Real quickly, I want to mention, earlier I said, hey, it doesn't matter what order the fuses go in, but there actually is one exception, and that's the 40 amp fuse that you're going to have. See, you don't want to put a 40 amp fuse here and like a 5 amp fuse here. The DC in should have the highest fuse that you have, so in my case, 40 amps. As you'll see, I disassembled them all. There was a total of 6 screws that held this in, 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and then 1 on each side here. And basically now I think all we're going to have to do is just pop this cover out. And what you could do is you could actually hold it like this. And when you flip it over, push up on those power pole adapters. And as you can see, there's starting to be a little bit of play in there, which is a good thing. I forgot a screw. Again, I do want to kind of comment on the quality of this aluminum. I'm putting some pressure on here, and you're not seeing a giveaway. So it's not cheap aluminum like you might see in some other situations. Here we go. We're on the board now. This is the front side of the board. I am going to say I don't see any missing solder joints on this side here. And what I mean by that is sometimes the solder comes through to the resistor, and that's completely normal and accurate. I don't see that being the case. Let's take off these 2, 4, 6 screws here and look on the other side. Now this does say that it's a D1209 version 1.3. I just wanted to give notice something I recognized, and I think it's kind of something noble to note. Right here is these little black, and I'm going to call them covers, these little pieces of plastic that basically prevent it from the fuse or any other foreign debris going onto the board when the cover's on. Here's what I mean. Right now, if I try to take this wire, okay, excuse me, this wire, and I try to go anywhere past that, I get blocked pretty good by those pieces of plastic I had just mentioned. Now, this is different than the West Mountain radio device, which if you had a piece of wire or a fuse, for example, it can go all the way in there and get stuck and maybe even cause a short. This could be bad. So I just wanted to mention that because I think that's a great feature of this $59 power splitter. All right, back to unscrewing these. I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws to unscrew. Okay, I got those unscrewed, and let's go ahead and take this off here and flip it over and just take a look real quick. I do wonder if these could have been cut a little bit shorter. I do have some tin snips, and I'll probably snip them myself. I gotta tell you, I'm pretty impressed with the quality of everything. As far as there's no cold solder joints. And like I said, I'm going to use these, and when this video's over, I'm going to snip these out. Just because I kind of concern myself with what if they bend and they touch each other. In fact, I probably just did that right there. But overall, that quality, it's not too bad for $59. You get the power pole connectors or adapters so you can make your own cables. You get the little covers here for those power pole connectors. You get the actual power distribution unit. And this is a really cool feature here, how they have these covers here, which is blocking any, or most, I should say, foreign debris from entering the circuit board and shorting out anything. Additionally, we know if there is a fuse blown, you'll see a little red light here, 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 or here, and so forth. So that is just a quick overview of this device. Now, again, I'm very well aware I didn't test to make sure that it actually does 40 full amps out. Hopefully in a later episode, I'll be able to test all the power distribution units or splitters, excuse me, that I've been testing here to make sure that they'll do the full 40 amps. What do you think of the quality of this, just from what you've seen in the photos? Do you own one of these? And if you do, what are some of the pros and cons that you found? Until next time, I'm Ham Radio Dude 73.